Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. If you want to build a company with an army of ambassadors and raving fans who speak highly of you and refer you willingly, you are in the right place. And now, here is your host, Michael J. Maher.
Welcome, everyone. This is Michael J. Maher with another absolutely awesome episode of Referrals Podcast. I'm telling you, today is going to knock your socks off. If you have been avoiding rituals, if you've been avoiding structure, if you've been avoiding all these things that can make you more efficient, make you more productive, make you a better person, then guess what? Today, no more excuses, no holds barred. We're going to give it to you today. We're going to show you how to easily and get started with rituals so that you too, starting literally today or tomorrow morning, you could change your life like our guest today. I can't wait to get to it. You have to wait though, because here's the thing. I've got to first of all say thank you so much for listening to Referrals Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we just went over 200,000 downloads. Not 200,000 downloads of Referrals Podcast. I will tell you that at least 100,000 are me, right? All I do all day is sit around download, because I want those numbers to be so high. I'm just kidding. It's one of those, I only get one download a day. So you are making it happen. 200,000 downloads. Are you kidding? That's amazing. I love it. Thank you for downloading it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for implementing. How do you get on Referrals Podcast? We want you on Referrals Podcast. You might be thinking, how the heck do I get on a Referrals Podcast? We want you. Let us know something, some strategy, some ritual, some thing that you put into place from Referrals Podcast, and then we'll have you on Referrals Podcast to implement it. Does it have to go perfect? No. Are you going to fail in some way? Absolutely. We want to hear from people who did whatever it was, and you know what? It didn't go perfectly. Maybe you didn't get a referral, but you got an aha from it. That's what we want to share on Referrals Podcast. Listen, this is the podcast. It's real people, real stories, real referrals. No jokes. I just got an email today that bothered the heck out of me because this person sent an email, and in the email, it said a testimonial or a kind of a success story about the thing he talked about. And then I went to look for the person who gave that testimony. I couldn't find them. And they were actually in my own city. So I was like, I was excited about meeting this mortgage professional, and it didn't even exist. So it's like, that makes me mad. This is real people, real stories, real referrals. And I'm telling you, we want you on the podcast. Let us know. It's podcast at referco.com, referco.com, podcast at referco.com, here at referralspodcast.com. Now, big shout out to Judy Paul. Judy Paul signed up for 30 Mornings. She signed up for Sweet Dreams. She took Catalyst. She's in Catalyst. She took, in the spring, she did March Magic. She did Summerfest. This lady is rocking and rolling with the 7L system. She said, I have so much gratitude for the Miracle Morning and Michael. It changed my life almost 5 years ago. I had always told myself that I was not a morning person. Wow, how many can feel that? That is what I believed to be true. I also believed I could not journal because I could never string together more than 5 days before giving up. After reading The Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents, I took the 30-day challenge with Michael, Polly, and Angela. It has been life-changing. I have created new habits and gotten rid of old ones, which is what this is all about. I am not where I want to be yet. Who is? But I believe it is possible. Thanks again. I appreciate you. Judy Paul out of Gainesville, Georgia, thank you. And stick with it. Keep doing it. We love you. You're awesome. And one last thing I got to do before we jump into our awesome guest today is rms21.com. Referral Mastery Summit. It is the life-changing and game-changing event. You want to win the referral game? Go to Referral Mastery Summit, rms21.com. I'm so excited about this event. It gets better. We meet every week on it, go over what that experience is going to be like to the attendees. We want you to attend, rms21.com. Check it out. speaking of rituals, speaking of success, speaking of amazing, today's guest is Matthew Lee. Matthew Lee is a loan officer with Cross Country Mortgage out of Chicago, Illinois, the Windy City. Probably named the Windy City, not for what you think it is. I'll come back to that. He first started in the mortgage business in 2002 and used his knowledge of mortgage financing and real estate to become a full-time investor. Matthew has now re-entered the mortgage business this year and as a stepping stone to launch the Path to Homeownership and Wealth Blueprint as a program to help renters and first-time homebuyers to use the process of homeownership as a foundation for wealth creation. Welcome to the podcast, Matthew. I love having you, brother. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Man, I'm so excited about this episode. First of all, Chicago, Illinois, right? Windy City, they say. I'm from Kansas City, which is truly the Windy City. I just want to throw it out there. There are more of the alternate energy wind, what are those called? The big giant fans. You drive from Kansas to Denver, Colorado, all you see are these big giant turbines, right? The wind turbines. But Chicago isn't named after the wind, right? It's really named after the politicians who were supposedly windy, right? There were so many people talking in the city that I believe that Chicago was known as the Windy City because their politicians were windy. But here's the thing. Here at Referco, right, and here with the 7L system, we believe in building our community. And you have become a major instrumental part of this community, and we really appreciate you. All I kept hearing from the 30 Mornings class was, man, you got to hear what this Matthew Lee's saying. You got to hear this Matthew Lee talk. And I'm like, well, okay, then I will hear him talk. So we'll have him on Referrals podcast, and I get a chance to chat with him. So let's focus on the morning ritual first, right? Because you have a lot of things you could talk about. I love what you're doing. So what made you decide that you wanted to start practicing a morning routine?
Well, I would say I didn't necessarily come across it because I was in such a great position, but for me, I really called it my double rock bottom experience. In about 2015, after reviving my business after 2007, 2008 crash, at 2015, I really felt like it was time to give it up. And at that moment, I kind of did what I call my Uber sabbatical. I disconnected from real estate. I realized that at that time, my success was attached to making money. So here I was, this, super successful person that had overcome all these obstacles in my life. Yet at this moment, the success that I equated to, financial success, I didn't have that anymore. So I really needed to, use that pain that I was experiencing that I didn't even know I was experiencing, going through all of that, to discover and really realign to my purpose. So it took me probably 3 years before I engaged in a program called the Wake Up Warrior program. For that, it was all about just aligning to the truth. And part of that process was a morning routine. Well, for me, I was no stranger to that. I started back in like 2003 with the Hour of Power with Tony Robbins. And it worked so well, I stopped doing it.
There you go.
So, once I reinitiated it, I kind of looked at this as my sacred space, the place that I went every day to just really ask myself the questions that I needed to ask before anything else happened in my day, so I could get centered and aligned to who it was that I was becoming, as a result of some of the tragedies that had happened in my life through business and stuff. So that's kind of where it began.
I think one big thing that I got out of that is the rebound, right? You said you crashed and burned, but you didn't burn. You just crashed. And it's okay to crash if you rebound. You went down in 2007, 2008, like everybody in the world. It basically, the American economy pulled the global economy down during 2007, 8, 9, even part of 2010 and so on. And so boom, but you rebounded, right up through 2015. And then 2015, you saw a similar type of crash, but not a burn. You're on the rebound, right? And right now you're on the rebound and you're continuing to go up. And it's one of those where you knew, or it sounds like you knew, that you needed almost like a, not a centerpiece, but almost like a kind of like that rock bottom, right? What is your rock solid strategy to go back to to kind of get yourself back on track, it sounds like you went with the morning ritual as being that centerpiece or that rock bottom or that rock foundation for yourself. Is that true?
That's exactly it. I mean, if you think about everything, I look at the rock bottom of the morning routine really is your nighttime routine. And once I built that, I realized that, man, having that commitment to myself, like making and keeping a commitment to yourself, that's what true like confidence is built off of. And having that morning routine in place, being able to go back to it, I reconnected to what really, made me who I was. Because ultimately, when my business crashed, I felt out of alignment, out of integrity, all the things that made me successful in life. I mean, I came from a very tough upbringing, background, single parent home, the oldest of three, got a Division I basketball scholarship. So all the things that I was told I shouldn't be able to do or couldn't do, I was able to overcome those things. Coming to Chicago, I'm originally from St. Paul, Minnesota. Coming to Chicago, I mean, one of the biggest cities in the country, and being able to overcome even, not really knowing many people.
How to not get lost in the city. I mean, that's one of the biggest things ever is how do you find your niche in a city that's so big, right? And that's the thing about the internet and social media. It's like, how do you find your niche with 4.7 billion people or whatever it is on Facebook, So, and I love that you went back to the structure. And I also love that you said that the morning ritual starts the night before, because that is so true. I'm just telling you, you go to bed at midnight, 5 a.m. might happen one time. It might happen twice. It's not happening 3 times. It's just not. It starts the night before. And quite honestly, what you can do the night before will really set up your morning ritual for success. And I want to there's people who are listening to this that have heard us talk about 30 mornings, right? Or they've been in 30 mornings. And they're just like, I like the idea, right? But they haven't taken the step to do it. Here's what I'm going to encourage them to do. School's coming up. If you have a kid that's in school, what time do they need to be on the bus or go to school? Let's say it's 8:45, right? So what time do you need to get them up? Probably 7:45. Let's say it's 7:45. I want to encourage people to get up at 7, right? Just get up earlier than they have to get up to get them organized, right? Give yourself 30 to 45 minutes before the world hits and just like enjoy the moment. That's all this isn't about getting up earlier. This is about getting up better. I'm not asking everybody here to join the 5 a.m. club. I'm not, right? I'm not a part of the 5 a.m. club. I don't even get up till 5:55. So it's one of those where it's like, hey, listen, I want you to be a part of the get up 30 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour before your world gets up, and see what happens. So that leads me to what was different about joining 30 a.m.s, right? When you did 30 mornings, what did you find that was different? You have a big background here, Matthew, that a lot of the people don't. Some people come to us, this is the first they've even heard of a morning ritual. Hour of Power, I'm familiar with Hour of Power. I grew up with Hour of Power as part of the things I did, right? And with Tony Robbins, thank you, Tony. And then, coming from that and then going into your background with the Wake Up Warrior, and then boom, you're in 30 mornings. So what was different about the 30 mornings experience for you?
I feel like there's a number of things. One, I think you guys have a great structure. 2, you guys stagger the times that people get up. So now you help people to ease into the process, because it's not just wake up at this specific time. You actually start an hour ahead, and then you ease people through that process. Another, interesting thing is just a community aspect, because I look at like getting up and really, one, that breaks a lot of limiting beliefs. If you've really struggled with that, and of course we look at ourselves on the surface level, we're successful in everything else we do, but I can't get out of the bed. So when you actually face that fear, you have a group of people that you're committing to join in that process. It gives you something bigger than yourself to kind of attach yourself to. So where you struggle at, your weakness, you bring other people that hold you up, that give you that confidence, that give you that certainty. Also, it's the insights, it's the revelations that other people are sharing, because ultimately, we think that, we're all kind of going through this by ourselves. Like when I hit that rock bottom moment, I thought, oh my gosh, nobody else knows how I feel. When in actuality, to get inside of a group, I started realizing that other people have gone through the same challenges that I have. I'm not alone. I'm no different. And ultimately, you get to rebuild the foundation that you want based on where you're trying to go. So I think when you look at the foundation of the morning, where somebody is at right now, they've already got a foundation built. But to go where they want to go, if you want to double your business, you need to break that foundation and build a new foundation. And that's a scary thing to ask somebody, because ultimately you got to deal with all the changes. You've got to basically challenge the identity that you built and who you are at that point. And I think with 30 mornings, you're going to see people at every single different level of the spectrum. You're going to see people who, were where, they're behind you where you used to be. You're going to see people that are in front of you, and just having that confirmation and verification that you're doing the right things. I think it's just going to, help you develop that mental, mindset that you'll need to kind of take those strides forward.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about the structure, right? So the structure, the way we ease people in, and you talked about that at length, and we don't have to maybe necessarily go into that too deep, but the easing up, and then the community aspect, which obviously resonated with you in a big way. What did you really like about the structure of it? How was it different than maybe what you've seen before? And I mean, just talk about the structure. What did you like about the structure of it?
So I can be kind of comfortable with a high level of discipline from playing basketball and other things that I went through. What I realized is when I shared that with other people, they're looking at me like, their eyes are glazing over like, oh, I can never do that. So in my mind, I still wanted to share this kind of, philosophy with other people, but I realized that what I was sharing was probably a little too intense for most people. What I liked about 30 mornings is it's a great way for a person to start creating that sacred. I kind of look at it as a sacred space. Like when you make that commitment to yourself, you're making a deposit into yourself. Yeah. If you think about the generosity generation, we want to go out and make deposits to other people. That's right. Well, the question I would ask somebody is, how are you going to go out into the world and make deposits to other people if you're not getting up every day and doing that with yourself first?
100%. How do you, that's everything: love, generosity, and appreciation. And it's really a foundation of love, right? Generosity is love in action. It's proactive love, if you will, right? And then you have appreciation, which is love in reaction to everything that happens to you. We should be appreciative. The people, the places, the things that happen to us, we need to be appreciative of all of them, right? Receive it, appreciatively. And it's one of those but its foundation of love is, if you're going to put your love in action and you're going to appreciate and love in reaction, then the first thing you got to do is love yourself, right? First, love yourself. To truly fly, to truly go to the next level, to go where you want to go, you have to first love yourself. And that's what I love that went into the community aspect as well. Is there's a great quote, I can't remember who it's by, somebody I'm sure that's listening will be able to help me with that, but it's we are all one-winged angels. We cannot truly soar until we partner up, right? And that's the community aspect. Is there's going to be days when we're flapping our one wing, getting nowhere. We're just going in circles. But all of a sudden, I can put my arm around you, right? And you're flapping your wing, I'm flapping my wing, and we go to the next level. And that is I believe in that. I believe we are one-winged angels. That for us to be complete, we have to partner. This isn't talking about marriage. This isn't talking about children or anything like that. I truly believe we were meant to collaborate as well as compete and be competitive. So, I think the other thing too on this is what did you need the ease up? What we do, for those of you that don't know, is we get, let's say the class, you eventually want to get up at 6 a.m. We actually have you come to the first class at 7. And then we have you the next week get up at 6:45, and then we have you get up at 6:30, and then we have you get up at 6:15, and then for a couple of days we have you get up at 6, and then you're on your own, hopefully. And so, what did you like about that? Did you really need it? Or did you go from like 7 to 6? Or did you go, what did you do on that?
Well, I will say that I've been accustomed to more of a 4 a.m. routine, and that kind of works for my lifestyle where my kids get up at 6:30. But I wasn't there to be the know-it-all or this is what I do. My thing was being a fly on the wall. I knew that part of my business, when you talked about the we all need each other, is partnering with agents. And sometimes it's hard to get agents to realize like how much their potential really is. It's like, you're doing good. Like, all right, this is your best year. But I'm like, have you ever asked yourself, could you double that? And when you get someone to think that way, you're challenging who they are. And sometimes that doesn't get well received. So I felt like,
could be like sandpaper.
Yeah. It's like, if I could look at this community and also get to know other agents, because as a lender, I'm kind of more looking to partner with agents. I could begin to understand some of the challenges that they see in their lives. Because ultimately, really, what happens in your business is just a reflection of your life. So I can better identify and have conversations with people to help them realize that one of those important pieces could be a morning routine. And if I could take a more like comfortable routine and help people fashion that within their business, then they could see me not as a traditional lender who's just coming in saying, hey, what can you give me? Can you give me a referral? But they see me truly as a partner and an ally, someone that doesn't see them just simply as a paycheck and a referral, but sees them as a person, someone who has a family, someone who has goals. And also those conversations, to me, that reveals more about who we are as people. And ultimately, the business is just a vehicle to help you connect and align with your purpose. And sadly, I see way too many people, waving around the flag of how much money they're making. But when you start pulling back those layers in your life and you start looking at yourself more transparently, you actually begin to see through other people. So I hear people, talking, and I can actually like see through the BS. And I know, if you're working as hard as you say you're working, you're neglecting other things in your life, whether you admit it or not. When you tell me, oh yeah, I can't get up early in the morning, I'm like, well, what other limiting beliefs do you have? And so again, because I faced those inside of myself and I got really honest about dealing with those things, it has allowed me to see for myself that we all carry those same limiting beliefs or similar limiting beliefs in some facet of our life. And it's ultimately up to us to begin to challenge those limiting beliefs.
That's right. Well, that leads me to changing of limiting beliefs is lessons, right? Lessons learned. And what's been the most important lesson that you learned in developing the morning routine and 30 mornings?
For me, it's just centered around the truth. So I found that there's 3 different levels of the truth. One is getting honest with myself, being able to tell myself the absolute truth. So when I look back at some of the challenges that I faced in business, it would be easy for me just to say, well, the real estate market was bad. The economy was bad and everybody went through the crash. Or with that, it's kind of convenient because now I don't really have to examine what are the things that I did to contribute to that downfall.
There we go.
And by getting honest with myself, then I could also start being honest with the people around me. So I could go back to my, partner and, say, I failed you by focusing so heavily on my business. I could look at how I failed my children by focusing so heavily on my business. I could go to my mother and say, how I failed you, and be honest about it. And by doing that, I'm gaining power. Then I can start being honest with the world. That's the 3rd level. For me to get on this podcast right now, it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of vulnerability to discuss your deepest, darkest moments. But ultimately, I found out that people are going to discover that stuff whether you like it or not. So you must either have embraced the power and embrace the pain and realize that there's purpose behind that pain. And so the biggest lesson I came away from that with is, what if the worst thing that happened to you is actually the best thing that happened for you?
There you go. I love that. And I'm telling you, I mean, I don't know if I've relayed this story on Referrals podcast or not, but when I was coaching 3 sports at a high school, and I really thought my future was teaching and coaching. And my identity was around teaching and coaching, probably because my dad's identity was around teaching and coaching. So I was becoming a little Pat Maher, maybe versus a Mike Maher. And I was in the winter of my 3rd year of teaching, I was applying for a job, high school coaching job, which I really, really, really thought that I was going to get, probably a leading candidate for it. And then I got a little sabotaged by, the person at my school who sent a basically not a good reference, right? Undeserved, by the way. And it ended up I didn't get that position. And it was like I was crestfallen. I was heartbroken. It was the deepest, dark. It was the worst moment ever, right? Imagine the dream job that you've always been wanting to go for, and you should get it, and you're in line to it, and yet you don't get it. Maybe not because of your limitations, right? But because of the limitations of your community. And what happened was from that, I just basically broke into real estate that next summer, and the rest is history, right? Jumped into real estate, made a world of difference to a lot of people, and then continued to do so. And 7L probably would have never happened without that huge rejection, and what we're doing in the generosity generation probably would have never happened. But I'm telling you, that was a very deep, dark, depressing last half of the year of teaching. So it's interesting, right? The worst thing that ever happened to me was one of the best things that happened for me, but not just for me, but for the world.
I mean, look at how that book, how you opened your book up.
Yep.
Like reading that introduction. I remember going through the book club, and I had read the book before. I listened to the audio book, but rereading it that final time, it like clicked in me and said, like, it had to take you sitting on a hospital bed to get to the message that was delivered through that book. And now that book goes out and touches thousands of lives. I can't imagine what that feels like, but I think, I'm honored that you were touched in a way and able to receive that, to share that with the world, because I've seen all the people that you've touched through this book. And that obviously there's people whose lives are getting changed. I mean, home buyers and home sellers, they don't know who the hell Michael Maher is.
That's right.
But because you've empowered people through your story, you've allowed yourself to sort of be, use your down dark place as an opportunity to help people. Now we're all able to, benefit from it. And I think that for every real estate agent, real estate professional, business owner who's watching this podcast, it's something that has happened in your life. And through that pain, you get to find purpose. And I think that's where it is that we're tapping into that. And that's what we've tapped into. And sometimes it's very difficult to admit that. It's very difficult to look in the mirror and say, man, this really, irked me. But when I look back at my childhood, what really, I called it a chip on my shoulder. Like the thing that made me upset, that's what made me a great athlete. I became a great competitor because I was mad. But now I can look back and I can separate that and just say, you know what, I'm grateful for the experience. Nobody can take away those challenges, nor would I allow somebody to go back and take away those challenges. Having, no father in the home, it made me step up in ways. It made me the father that I am today.
Right.
I wouldn't be the father that I am if it wasn't for my father. And, I also got me to see different aspects of what he missed in his life. So I think that's the beauty of this game. That's the beauty of what we get to do in real estate. And I always say, we're not in the real estate business. We're in the people business. We're in the relationship business. So people do business with other people. When we take a step back for a moment and, stop pumping our chest and looking at, how many millions of dollars worth of real estate we sold, that all that is great. But ultimately, the biggest satisfaction, the biggest fulfillment are going to come from the people's lives that you touch. And sometimes when I found like my most success in real estate, it's when I detached myself from the check and I looked at it and I said, I want to have a conversation with you. And I want you to walk away with something from this conversation that if we don't even do business, that your life is going to be changed from it. And there's times when I moved away from that and I was chasing the money and I realized I was out of alignment and I lost big time by chasing the money. But when I focus on simply saying, how can I impact this person just through one conversation, whether they ever speak to me again, they'll always look back and say, you know what? I really respect that guy. That to me is where I found the most success in my business.
Yeah, I love that. And a few things on that. One thing is we talked about the OneWinged Angels, and is there any business that's maybe as powerful, is that statement as powerful as in real estate, with real estate and mortgage, right? I mean, we need each other, better together, right? We're better together. We got to work together. We got to make it happen. The only way for us to help this client is for both of us to be great, right? For both of us to do our jobs well. And you're exactly right. It gets back to the identity and this true, let's not worry about the money, right? Money is just a byproduct of the experiences and the value that we bring to others' lives, right? So that's the key is, are we focusing on the experience and the value that we're providing, or are we, focusing on the money and the dollars and the commissions that we're going to get at the end? Well, in this real estate industry especially, it's easy to get wrapped up in that, because who walks across the stage, right? Who gets the awards? Who get the notoriety? And it's funny, as I know $300 million producers in real estate who are sad, not happy at all. I know people who sell $3 million a year, and they're the happiest cats around, right? They're the happiest people around. And it's one of those where it's like, all right, where is your happy? Where is your joy? Are you getting happiness from it? Are you getting joy? And the other flip side of that is, but are you limiting yourself, right? Where is that happy medium between, the love and joy you're getting out of this and the people you're serving, and this love and this joy of, maybe you could do a little bit more, maybe you could do more if you had better structure. Maybe you could do better if you had better systems. Have you truly tapped your potential as to what you can do? So if you boil down to it, what's the common ingredient to this love and joy and really having fun doing the business and being super productive? The word is growth, right? The word is growth. When you're really truly happy, us as children, us, teenage, us in school, why were we happy there? Growth. We were growing. We continue. Are you continuing to grow? And that is it, right? You get love and joy from growth, and you get more productive from growth. So, I think there's a key word there, is growth. So, what do you suggest that someone do to begin the process developing like a great morning ritual, or, that AM routine habit?
I definitely think you got to connect something to why that's important to you. Mm-hmm. So for me, one of the questions that I asked myself, because I definitely got stuck on this idea that I can't get up this early, because I knew my kids get up at 6:30. And for me, I knew what I kind of wanted my routine and ritual to be. What I had to do when I started coming up against those limiting beliefs is I asked myself, I said, if somebody was going to give you, let's just say, a $500,000 job, and that you had to do that morning routine every day in order to make that $500,000, would you figure out a way to do it? And I'm like, yeah. So once I saw that was just, something, I also realized that if I was making that big of a commitment to myself and I was keeping that commitment to myself, I would value myself at such a high level that I wouldn't give the time of day to people that weren't deserving of that time. Mm-hmm. How many times in our business or our life do we not question the association that we give to people who are actually liabilities that pull us down? So by actually having that kind of reason, like clarity around why I was doing it and who is the person that I can become in this process? So I'm like, I saw the other person on the other side of this morning routine, and I was just like, that guy is somebody that people are going to respect. That guy is somebody who's going to impact other people's lives. And it's because I'm taking that time to deposit in me first. So I think by really connecting to who is that other person that's going to be on the other side from when you actually start that process, I think by getting clear on who that person is going to be, what do they look like? Like if you're having a conversation with your future version of yourself, the person who's initiated not just a ritual routine, but like that's become who you are. Mm-hmm. I devote this time every day to myself. Who is that person and what do they look like? What type of income do they have? What type of clients do they serve and work with? What type of team do they have? I think sometimes when people don't go out and grow their business or they don't grow to the next level, it's really a lack of belief. Mm. But if you think about it, if you're not able to get up in the morning, it's pretty hard to convince yourself that you can lead a team and teach other people and model to other people the behaviors that are necessary to succeed. So therefore, we stay stuck. So I think if someone can attach themselves to that future version of themselves, then from there, they can start identifying like what's really in my way, what's stopping me. And I would encourage somebody to write down like, what are all the limiting beliefs? Like what's my biggest excuse why I can't do this? And what I think happens is the more you write stuff out and you get it out of your head, it starts to diminish the impact and the weight that it currently has on you, and realize that that's actually one of the steps in the morning routine. Is every day listing out, like, what am I afraid of? What is my biggest challenge? What am I feeling? What's the feelings that I connect to that? And then when you start getting clear on what those things are, you start realizing like they're not real. They're just something that we made up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. For those of you that aren't as, maybe haven't listened to the previous podcast with where we talked about, the 30 mornings ritual, which is really, it's savers, right? So you've got, your SAAVERS, and S is for silence. A is for appreciations. The second A in savers is for affirmations. Then you have visualization, exercise, then you have reading, and then you have S, which is for scribbling, scribing, or essentially journaling. And so out of the savers, and I'm genuinely curious, like which is your favorite, or which is the one that made the biggest difference for you?
I would say somewhere in the lines of the scribing. And I kind of use a format and a framework that I did get through the Wake Up Warrior program. They call it stacking, but it's kind of like an internal dialogue and conversation with yourself. Once you really go through that process, you almost feel like you're connecting spiritually, because you're really asking yourself the tough questions, and you're really pulling back the layers to get to the actual truth of the matter. And what I've come to realize is all the worst things that somebody could say about you, I typically was saying them to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started to identify those things, like actually write it down, I could realize that that was just a frame. It was a disempowering frame. Mm-hmm. And now when I have it written down, I can actually turn that disempowering frame and story into a more powerful story, because ultimately I said that was not true. Mm. And sadly, we sometimes get into that habit of not really catching or being even conscious to the things that we're telling ourselves. So actually writing things down, I began to see what was the limitation that was actually stopping me. Then I could actually, write a new empowering story. Also, I shared it. I started building relationships with other people that were doing this. So I'd share it, and we gave each other feedback. And what's crazy about it is, like, once you start to get that vulnerable with yourself, like, you're not the only person that's having it. It's just that most people don't have the courage to share their deepest, darkest thoughts.
Or the venue. Right. I mean, that's what I love about 30 mornings is you're going through it together, right? The community aspect of it is, if maybe we hadn't thrown the same people or all these people together who are going through the same thing together and having them talk about it, it's amazing the ahas that people don't necessarily get from the class. They get it from their pods, right? They get it from the community, and it's usually like, oh my gosh, that person just said it the way I wanted to say it. That person totally, or a little, spark in your head goes, oh my gosh, they didn't say it quite the way I would have, but that's what I'm dealing with, and here's how I'd say it. So you get a chance to journal it or say it out loud in the class. And I love that. And I think another one in talking to you before we came on, another one of them that really hit home for you was affirmations.
Yes.
So we have to share your affirmation that you repeat and that you say. And I'd love to close with that thought, right? Yeah. So what's the affirmation that you have?
I don't want to steal the thunder, but one before we finish, I got to throw just how grateful I am to the trainers that you brought to the 30 mornings too. And just the ability to connect with Paulie and Angela, like, just amazing. And just the service that they're able to give is just amazing. So to me, if anybody, doesn't enroll in 30 mornings, you're missing out on a lot. Now let's go.
I'm going to say thank you. And I'm going to tell you right now is that, Paulie and Angela, we've got Neil and Shalee, and we have Tony and Jen, who teach 30 mornings, different classes for different time zones. We have the best of the best, and what I love about it is it's a really structured, great series of PowerPoints, if you will, classes. But each of them have brought their own spin and their own love to each of every class is different, and every teacher is different within the class. So I'm so glad you said that, because that's a big shout out to them. They deserve it. It's been awesome. And they've made a world of difference. I love that. For those of you interested, 30mornings.com, 30, mornings.com, 30mornings.com, or 30ams.com. Go check that out if you're interested. We try not to make the podcast kind of a sales pitch or anything like that, but listen, if you're interested, we do have a What's Next, and the What's Next for a lot of you may be getting enrolled in 30 Mornings. So thank you for that, Matthew. I appreciate it. And I'm going to pass the word on to Polly and Angela as well. They're probably listening on this on repeat. So let's jump into that affirmation, right?
So my affirmation, and to me, by actually practicing this, I'm able to like have this come up in my mind, because I think sometimes we have those, questionable moments where doubt creeps in. And I use this affirmation every day to reinforce. So the affirmation is, no matter what I see in front of me, God is rearranging the universe for my best interest right now. And to me, I just go back, when I think of that affirmation, I go back to every difficult moment throughout my life that I can remember. And then I see all the great things that unfolded in front of me that I couldn't see in that moment, that I had to be patient enough for, that I had to continue to, be disciplined, put in the work for. And that's what really keeps me going. It makes me realize that there's other people on the other side of that adversity and challenge that are waiting there for me. And it's up to me to, withstand the difficulties in this moment, and also realize that there's a lesson, that these challenges are more lessons than they're tests. And sometimes we just don't understand what that lesson is going to be, but it's important that we see it as such rather than see it as something that's happening to us.
Repeat that affirmation for everybody. I just know they're listening to this and they're like, wait, say that again. I just know they are, right? So what is it again?
No matter what I see in front of me, God is rearranging the universe for my best interest right now. And
I hope all of you took to heart what he's saying with what he's saying. Well, first of all, I love the ending of right now. Right now is very current. It's very happening. It's very now, right? And there is no other time than now. And I love that. And then the rearranging the universe. I'm telling you, I absolutely love where you're at with that affirmation, because it's true. It is. It's true. It's rearranging, and maybe already arranged in a great way. And I talk on this show a few times about, how do we get the world? What if we could have the world? What if we could have God conspire for our success? What if we could get the world to conspire for our success? And what if it is conspiring for our success? We always think of conspiracy as a negative word, but what if there was a conspiracy for you to be a success? Like, what would that be like? And I've always said that there is a way to get the world to conspire for your success, and the answer is generosity. The answer is generosity. When you are generous, when you are proactive with your love, and you put your love in action, you help them, you help them, you help them, you help them, you help them. It's not about money, it's about help, right? Adding value. When you add value to a bunch of people's lives, what happens is it comes back to you. The world literally is in a position where they are conspiring for your success. God rearranges the universe for your benefit. And that's what's happening. The more like Matthew, you're adding so much value. I mean, there's going to be thousands upon thousands of people who download and listen to this podcast, and you're adding a ton of value to them, which leads to, it does. I mean, it may not lead to it directly, but someone talks to someone, and what happens is you get business in Chicago. You get a new relationship with an agent in Chicago. You get help doing something else that you want, simply because there is this wave that we are sending out, that you are sending out, that I am sending out. And I mean, how did you get on this podcast? Right? I mean, If you look at the dominoes, people had to rearrange the universe for you to get on this podcast, right? And it happened. And guess what? I'm telling you, it happens. And how did it happen? It's like, did you get it by selling something to all the 30 Mornings people? Were you trying to sell yourself? Were you trying to sell your mortgage services? Were you trying to sell something else? The answer is no. What you did is you contributed, and you thought about it, and you went 110% in 30 mornings. 110% in 30 mornings. And you gave it all, right? What is challenge? right? Challenge is you take the first 3 letters and the last 2 letters, you've got change, right? Last 3 letters, first 3 letters, last 3 letters, you got change. So you got to change. But if you look at the 2 words on the inside, it's all in, right? All in. If you're going to succeed at a challenge, you got to go all in from the inside out. You got to change from the inside out. And that's what you did with 30 Mornings is you changed from the inside out and became a key contributor. And you did it through, honestly, generosity and appreciation and just like being there, So I want to say thank you from Polly and Angela, and thank you from our entire, 30 Mornings group and team for what you did here today, but maybe even more importantly, how much you've given yourself in 30 Mornings, the book club, and the Generosity Generation. So thank you, Matthew. It's awesome.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
I got to ask you something before we go, though, right? So for those of you that are listening to this, you can't see his bookshelf that is behind him. But for those of you watching on YouTube, you had to be wondering, he's got probably 300, 400 books behind him, neatly organized, by the way. Not color-coded, though, but it is neatly organized. But so, all right, other than you can't use 7L or Miracle Morning for real estate agents, what would be the number 1 book that you would recommend to someone who is looking to improve themselves or grow as a person?
I would say Unique Ability. It's a book written through the Strategic Coach organization. And to me, like, we all have our own unique talents and gifts. And sadly, because they're innate, very often we don't recognize what those are. Mm-hmm. So as in 7L talks about DISC. So I think that in many cases, that's somebody's first experience really understanding like how they're pre-wired. Mm-hmm. So in Unique Ability, it actually has a couple exercises. It's more of a book of exercises than it is actually like a book you have to read. Mm-hmm. But if you complete the exercises in there, you're actually using the other people around you that you interact with to give you feedback, which I will say that's another impact of 30 Mornings is that you're in a small, intimate group where people are constantly giving you feedback and affirming what you're great at. Mm-hmm. Like you think you go out into the world, but very rarely do people stop you and say, you know what, you're really good at this. And sadly, because you're not getting that confirmation of verification, you're trying to sometimes be something that you're not. Mm-hmm. I think when you talked about earlier, like going to Chicago, finding a competitive advantage, when you understand who you are and how basically you're asking people to give you feedback on your unique ability, which is how do I create value? Mm-hmm. So to me, like I've read probably 1,000 books easily. I'm not even that proud of it, but that's part of my, the Colby, I'm a fact finder, but I think that for somebody that doesn't really know that at a deep level, it's going to start to show up for them once they understand it. And not only will it show up for you, but you'll start to see inside of other people, their unique ability. Mm. And it doesn't have to be this competitive thing like, oh, I want to be like, Michael. Instead, I want to partner with him, and they talk about forming unique ability teams. So you partner with people that complement your unique ability. So I can't be a bigger endorser of that, book. Even though I've read 500 books, I generally try to stick to like giving people 1 good book or 2 good books. So,
well, I think you chose wisely. Unique Ability is one of my favorite books as well. And I love how I've always believed that when I have a one-on-one, and honestly, this is kind of the same format, right? Zooms have become the one-on-ones is what is the other person's spark? What is their essence? That's always what I'm looking for is and many people, it's been buried, right? It is such a dim lit spark. And what I hope to do is say, all right, take it out, right? And let's put it up here, and then hopefully I can fan the flame or build the flame, or at the very least help them see more of the flame, And I see it as this light, this flame that is the essence of someone, or the unique ability, if you will, and that unique. It's amazing when you start getting tuned in to your unique ability, and that is honestly, I mean, if you took unique ability as the seed, in my opinion, this is just right, my opinion, it's my show, so I'm going to share my opinion. Whoa. So it's like, is the unique ability is the seed, And the tree are the yaps, right? Are the yearly appreciation plan and the yearly ambassador program and those events and those methods of communication that they become the manifestation of your unique ability. We don't say you should do these events, right? We don't say you should do these types of communication. It's you do whatever events you want. I just talked to Neil Smith. He's doing a comedy night. He likes comedy. He has fun with comedy. He's actually kind of a funny dude himself, right? So it's one of those where it's like that's his manifestation of his unique ability is it's hosting these groups, these events of, it could be 5 people. 5 people is an event. It could be 500 people like Dan Balter's movie event. So I think it's amazing that you would go with unique ability, because it's truly at the root of Gen and the 7L system is Catalyst is an acronym for, which is our coaching program, create authentic transformation and launch your success today. That's the acronym for Catalyst, create authentic transformation. Well, that authentic transformation is transformed to the most you can be. It starts with unique ability. It starts with DISC. It starts with Strengths Finder. It starts with unique ability, right? And these group assessments. So I'm telling you, I haven't talked about unique ability enough, and I'm so blessed and so thankful for you bringing that up during this episode. So you rock it. That's awesome.
Yes.
Matthew, we got to go, dude. I mean, our time is right there. So final words of wisdom or final advice to someone who's listening to this, who's contemplating a morning ritual and contemplating on maybe developing themselves even further.
Yeah. I think get on the other side. Spend some time getting on the other side. So you are where you are right now. This is your current version. But I want people to ask themselves, who can I become a year from now if I was to put the structure of a morning routine in place? And what are the challenges that stand in my way? And then the last thing is, who can help me overcome those challenges? And I think if you can get clear on those things, then you're going to see a straight line to becoming that version of yourself.
I love it. I love it. Who are you now, and who do you want to become? Right. And where are you now? Where do you want to be? And, that's what we hope with 30 Mornings. The thing that I love about ReferCo is we only create and teach life-changing classes. That's it. Our classes, our trainings they're only going to be built to change people's lives. We're not going to do it just for fun. We're not going to do it for money. We're not going to do it for profit. Everything we do is we want it to be life-changing. Right? 30 Mornings has changed a lot of lives, and I love it. Matthew, I just want to say thank you so much for being our guest today here on Referrals Podcast. It was unbelievable. I keep wanting to ask questions and pull your wisdom out, but we've run to the end of our time, and maybe we'll have to have you on for another one. How's that sound?
I look forward to it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all of you. Thank you for the download. 200,000 downloads that you have made with Referrals Podcast. We really, really appreciate that. Who can you share this with? Have you rated it? Have you reviewed it? We'd love for you to do that. People do read those ratings. They do read the reviews. We read the ratings. We read the reviews and every week when we have our podcast meeting. And I'd love for everybody to consider Referral Mastery Summit, rms21.com, September 30th, October 1st and 2nd in Scottsdale, Arizona at the beautiful Hilton Resort, Scottsdale Resort and Villas. It's a beautiful facility. We are the only game in town. We will be the only event there. Very, very excited for that. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Referrals Podcast. Thank you.